Good evening. I hope you can hear me loud and clear. You're all welcome to this week's episode of our live show. It promises to be better and more interesting. We'll be discussing a very relevant and important topic. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our show. I will just briefly introduce those we have with us in the show today. I'm sure most of us have met Tunde Gold. Is with us today, and Innocent Omodiale, who is also with us today. We have the privilege of having a guest with us, Mary Sholanke, who would be joining us in addressing this very topical and important issue. You're welcome. So we encourage you to please support us by joining our live, sharing our live, and also subscribe to our different social media channels. That is the best way you can support what we do if you like what we do. We'll also use this opportunity to let you know that we discuss in relevant and topical and interesting topics that would help the society improve how people think and help us to reason better. Um, you can also interact with us, and that's the more reason we do it live, just because we want to hear from you, want to hear your opinion. We do not claim to be know it all, so we can learn from you too. If you wish to join us, you can do this by indicating in the chat, and then we can bring you in by sending a link. So let's start with the topic. So today we are talking about tribalism in Africa, the role of prejudice and discrimination in festering social division. This is indeed a very important topic, and it's become very relevant, especially with the impact of social media, which has made it very obvious the amount of division that exists among people, especially of African descent. In some countries, it's even becoming so obvious that sometimes people fear that it can lead to a kind of civil war or breakout, especially relevant in Nigeria, but applies too to many other African countries. To start, we would like to define a few terms which we might be using during the course of this discussion. It's important that we define some of them. So I will start with tribalism. So what is tribalism? This is a deep seated loyalty to one's tribe to the extent that it leads to exclusion or hostility towards others. So just for us to understand this better, there's nothing wrong in loving where you come from. We don't preach that you should hate where you come from, no. But when it gets to the point where you decide to exclude others or feel that others are not relevant, then you might be falling into this trap called tribalism. It's a bit related to racism, which I will quickly define, which is a belief that one's race is superior to others. It usually results in discrimination and prejudice based on race. Many of us can relate to racism, but we might not really understand that tribalism and racism cause the same issue in the society. Now, let's go to the next thing I need to define is prejudice. It's a bit related to discrimination, but it's more specific in that it is a preconceived negative opinion about a person or group of people, often based on stereotypes. To make us understand it better, if you've not met someone before, you've never had any interaction with the person, but you just met him for the first time right now, at this moment, you already have an opinion of who this person is, what he can do and what he cannot do, you are falling into the trap of prejudice. To spice up this discussion, we will be playing a video. It's a video that highlights the anger expressed by a Canadian based lady of Nigerian descent who was so angry. It was like she was instigated or made. Some things might have happened prior to this, which has gotten her so angry to the point that she decided to threaten that she would harm, if given the opportunity, people of a certain tribe. Just watch, and maybe you might get to understand why this topic is quite relevant.
Yeah, record me very, very well. Record
Exactly.
me.
We are
It's
going to
time.
give them
Time to start poisoning the Yoruba and the Benin. Put poison for all una food for work. Put poison for una water. Make una dey kpai one by one. Una go kpai one day. Una go sick. I go put ota pia for inside una water, inside una food. Una no go see better. This kind hate when I get for una so it go last forever. For all of una food. Ota pia. What do they call that one? What do they call that rat?
Otapia na.
Eat and die.
Sniper.
I go they put them for all una food.
Sniper.
All una food for if I go work tomorrow now, I go put them for Yoruba people food. Go tell government. Oh yeah, I dey Canada, I dey Ontario. Oh yeah, hurry up, hurry, fast. I go put otapia, I go put Ogbomosho, everything for inside una food. Una go dey hear small. Yoruba don die yo, Benin don peme yo. Una go dey hear am. Na me talk am. I want making the Igbo get that heart of wickedness. Una too dey quiet. Una too dey cool. Enough. Is enough. If you have a means of buying them, buy them. Any means of buying them, come up for road.
Amen.
Because they're too mumu, they are of no use to the society. Lot of prostitutes and everything.
I don't know how you felt when you watched that video. I was really down, but unfortunately, this is not a standalone case. It happens every minute if you enter social media. It's a problem. I would just like us to briefly discuss this. Any of my panelists, what do you think about this video?
Hello everyone. I'll just say from this onset, this whole topic is something that is particular to every one of us, especially if you say you come from a tribe. And a tribe, I would say a tribe is not just limited to the language you speak. Some of us, which goes further now, you form your tribe. But in this particular video, whatever might have transpired between this woman and the tribes that she is actually threatening to poison and kill them must have been something serious. However, going out on social media and knowing the power of social media is a tool that you can use for good or for evil. And she's actually used it to propagate this plan that she wants to go out to do. And I don't know if she's going to do it or if she was even capable of doing it. But she's saying it, she doesn't realize who would take her seriously and actually do it. This is a problem with social media. You go out and say something, even if you say, I didn't mean it, but you've started a movement without realizing. You know, it can be good movement, it can be bad movement. And I say we should be very careful, especially on Twitter, on social, on Instagram, TikTok, whatever we say there, whatever we put out there, whether be it about someone or about a tribe, we might be actually starting a movement without realizing it. And she's actually, the way she's put it, she's saying, she's not just saying that she should do it herself, she's also encouraging them. She says she doesn't want Indigo to be quiet for long. They should continue, they should propagate this wickedness. She's inciting, purely inciting wickedness. For me, I think if they get hold of her, they should try and ask her more questions about the origin of how it happened, why she got to this conclusion, and if she has ever killed, because I don't know if this woman has ever killed, or if she knows what she was actually saying could actually make other people to go ahead and do something wicked. That's my take on it. I don't
it is important for us to discuss this topic because of its impact and its effect on our nation. We can see that this thing is this tribalism is something that have been passed on from years past, from the colonial masters to our parents to, and it's now being transferred to us. And that pain, when we see that, when we see listen to what that woman was saying, we will feel some kind of pain or some kind of bitterness. And my point is this: the fear is that that kind of mentality she has is going to be passed on to our children. It's being passed on to people, to our spheres of influence. You know, using the social media as a tool now to pass on such kind of agenda, such kind of perception to people that she influences. And as it rubs off on people, the effect can be very devastating. So, if a nation is to, if we are to grow as a nation, then we need cohesion and unity. And when there's no cohesion and where we want cohesion and unity, tribalism is not something that will engender cohesion and unity. So this topic is very, very apt at this point in time.
Aside from this extreme we've seen in her, we know that this problem also appears in more subtle measures where people express dislike for people of another tribe, even if they've never met someone, even if even if they've not met someone, but once they meet that person for the first time and the person identifies as I'm from this tribe, they already have anger for this person. It's a general problem. It may not be as bad as expressed in this video, but we need to discuss it.
Real life experience. I remember while in school those days in Uniben, I am from the Eastern tribe. Oh my word, my life is single. So I'm from the Eastern tribe, and when you go out to look for a place you want to rent, like you want to rent an apartment, and you meet a Benin person as a landlady, or most times they are landladies, I don't know why. Now, if you meet them, they will tell you, are you from Esan? You say yes. You say no, they won't give you. The first time it happened to me, I didn't know why they were refusing until a friend of mine told me why. And they said the Benin people believe that if you see an Asian man and then you see a snake, you should kill the Asian man first before you kill the snake. That statement is something you will see in most tribes in Nigeria. They will often make a statement like that, saying the fellow human is more dangerous than a venom from a snake, you know? So that shows how tribalism can eat deep into some persons. And it's not often good. Like you said, it can affect us. And that's the effect it has caused, because me showing up, you don't know me. Just because I say I'm from this place, you made a decision on me already. You don't know who I am. You don't know what I'm capable of doing. So it's a very bad trait that we shouldn't work with, or we shouldn't try to put into our children.
Generally, one thing is agreed, and which is the role of colonialism in fostering tribalism. So now, during the colonial periods and the slave trade, um, there was disruption of a lot of traditional societies, and we find that there were a lot of conflicts. And post-independence, a lot of these conflicts were exploited. One of the things that happened in this period was that sometimes the colonial leaders chose people from a certain tribe and gave preference in treating these persons. And these kind of things only resulted in a kind of animosity and division among the different tribes. So, in summary, while there was always different tribes, the presence of colonialism and the slave trade seemed to have worsened the division that existed among these different tribes. I will briefly talk about the Rwandan genocide, which resulted in the death of close to 1 million, mostly Tutsis and some moderate Hutu tribes. It was very horrific. In fact, at a time, the death rate was close or even surpassed that of the Jewish massacre. It almost surpassed it at a point. Now, what was the major cause of this problem? Dominant tribe, which was the Tutsis, and this led to the Hutus feeling left out. There was a great animosity among them. By the time they became free from colonialism and they gained their independence, most of the government was formed by the majority Hutus. And at the same time, there was a conflict, a civil war, which was being led by a group mostly formed by Tutsi rebels. So this combination of the civil war and the already predisposed animosity among the tribes led to the Rwandan genocide, which was really a very big massacre. Then the other one I want to talk about is about the Nigerian Civil War. It lasted for about 3.5 years. It's otherwise called the Biafran War, and was a conflict that resulted mainly from animosities between the Igbo tribe in Nigeria and most other tribes in Nigeria, and it led to a lot of deaths. We can all do further research about these wars and see the role that tribalism played. In short, tribalism was the main trigger because people felt that certain persons from another tribe were either not worthy of living or were the cause of their problems. However, people failed to see that evil can be caused by people from anywhere, from any tribe. Anyway, that said, we would then like to move to the next part of this discussion, and which has to do with the role of prejudice in tribalism.
Well, the role of tribalism, prejudice in promoting tribalism is quite huge because, first of all, you have already talked about because the most recent one on my mind that I kind of could relate to a lot was the Rwandan War, civil war, and that's because there was this movie called Hotel Rwanda, and sometime in April, I think those two movies, I watched them and I was terrified, and it showed that prejudice. The colonial masters came there and showed preferences to the Tutsis, and you might ask why. And you could actually Google and check more research papers about it. But let me just give you a hint. If you, in the colonial times, in case you didn't realize, if you were a tribe that were always saying yes, or if you had a leader or a chief that was always favoring the colonial masters, like making them have their way, helping them to build the bridges that they wanted to build with the society, helping them to steal from the society, like from the community, get the resources that they needed and be able to take it back home, or help them get the slaves that they wanted to get. If you were the tribe that was supporting them to do that, they would prefer you, obviously. So, and the same goes for everywhere where they went to. And that actually caused bitterness between the Tutsis and the Hutus. And as time went back, you find that in political spheres, the Tutsis were given more political offices, they were more favored, they were more influential. And you would ask me, how did that affect the Hutus? They were, of course, they were becoming more desolate, and in a way, they felt left out. So this was a kind of, let's get even with these people. And you can see a lot, even in communities, in religious gatherings, where there are more people from a certain tribe. When you find that they kind of favor their tribal person, but more than the other, maybe the dominant tribe are more favored than the other people. And if there's offices to be given in that particular in that particular gathering, they kind of give those offices to the people they prefer the most, which are the people from their own tribe. And it could affect people negatively. You'd be like asking people, if it was me, I would ask myself, what's the point of being here? What's the point of being here? And to get even, sometimes you never know how you can react to some things. You might be the one, like the other woman in that video, pushing the narrative that let's get even with all these tribes. And you have to almost stop yourself. And it starts from us owning to it. Yes, at some point you would have shown traits of being a tribalistic person. I have. I don't know about you. But sometimes, and it's in our subconscious because we are brought up that way. It's something that has been passed on to us. But you have to make conscious effort not to be the person that would cause a whole tribe to feel neglected and thereby start a movement that could cause chaos to entire generation. I would look at even in schools, back in secondary school, in primary school, I experienced it as well. And I know Innocent touched on that. I experienced it. And do you know how that affected me mentally? It affected me mentally. The thing is, in Nigeria back then, because I'm from Nigeria, in Nigeria back then, in where I grew up, they didn't just say, oh, you are from Middle Belt or from this. They would just classify all of us as Hausas, because the three dominant tribes in Nigeria is Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, isn't it? So
Yeah.
automatically, when you fall from anything from Middle Belt up north, they classify you all as Hausas. They didn't even care to know me. Do you know how that made me feel? So when people came and were like, oh, that Hausa girl, I'm not Hausa. I can speak the language, but I have my own tribe. And apart from that, I didn't even grow there. I didn't even grow up there. So you calling me that, you're actually disidentifying me. My identity is actually rooted in the places I have stayed in. Those cultures have been imbibed in me. So I'm not just one identity. Yes, I'm a tribe. Do you see where I'm coming from? So the notion of tribalism is actually a limitation. When you start showing, once I see a tribalistic person, I see that you are very limited. You are not exposed. And that juxtaposes, why should we then put you as a leader? And unfortunately, we have a lot of tribalistic people in power. And that is where trouble starts. I don't know. What's your take on having someone that you clearly know doesn't like your tribe ruling in that state? What's your take on it? Do you think he want to help your village when you guys have like flooding? Do you think he would sign out budgets for you guys to have to repair your bridge or repair your? It affects communities. When there are when there are jobs going out within the state government or the local government, do you think they would favor you? And that's talking from even from the same state. Let's not even go, we're not even going wide yet. From the same state, let's take a state, maybe just a state. I would use, because I'm from Nigeria, as I said earlier on, and I'm going to use, like, for instance, if it's Kogi State, and we have the Kogi State, we have the Biras, we have the Galas, we have Yorubas there. We have what's it called? My memory.
Nupe.
Nupe, we have Basange, we have Basakomu, we have different tribes. But the most popular tribes we hear is Ibira and Igala. So you find that they are predominantly in offices. How do you feel those Nupe people feel? How do you think they feel? They're sidelined. So they will definitely want somebody to be representing them as well. See, I feel that most of the things we're doing, most of the problems we have with the prejudice that we face, especially with respect to tribalism, is limitation of mind. We need to be more, we need to understand our country. First of all, understand your state. Take time to travel to different cultures to understand them, and don't judge people by what they say. They just say, oh, the Igbos, as the Yoruba, as the Hausas we say, in Nyamari. Once they see and they say, don't give your house to Nyamari, they won't pay you. But it's not all Igbos that are like that. Or they will say, they call me Malu. Malu. The thing gets me wound up, but sometimes I make up my mind and say, I'm not going to get wound up when someone says, oh, that Malu girl, that Malu girl. Why are you calling me a cow? Do you know what Malu means? A cow. For goodness sake, that's just downright diabolic. And sometimes it's even funny when they say, I get like, did you just call me that? And sometimes you're in a gathering and they're talking about you in a language without realizing that you understand everything they're saying. Because you're not just a Hausa girl. You're not just an Igbo man. You're not just a Yoruba person. You are where you stayed in. You grew up in Kogi State. You grew up in Cyprus. You grew up in Tunisia. You grew up in Saudi Arabia. You've taken all these identities. You've embodied them. You understand culture. You respect individuals, regardless of their religion, regardless of their tribe. I mean, we might disagree on certain things because there are certain foods that certain religions or certain tribes eat. I might not necessarily like to eat them, but that doesn't mean I'm going to just write them off that all Yorubas are like this. No, or all Igbos are like this. And it has affected lots of relationships. So I'm giving you some clues on this. Prejudice has affected relationships. Some people would have been married to a certain person of a certain tribe, different from theirs, but their families immediately said no once they knew, oh, that person is from this tribe. Those people, oh, they are all mad in that tribe. You can't marry from that tribe. That immediately limits that girl or that man's scope to only his tribe. The limitation is just, it's so, it makes people feel limited, and they carry on like that. And if you don't actually try to find out about other cultures, like make conscious effort to open your mind, to talk to people, not judge them before you even know them, give them a chance. You would never know. You would just become a bigot. And one thing I would ask you, I'll throw a question back out and I'll give you my answer. And I want you all to also say your answers. Do you think tribalism can be erased? Personally, I think no. I think there's need for a dose of it. What do you think? A dose of it, but a healthy dose.
I think prejudice, not just tribalism, is an innate problem. Although it's a bit learned, but there's a human tendency to discriminate people, especially if you do not share certain things with them. So it's a general problem, and the good thing is that when people are conscious of it, they then work against it. So there are some human tendencies that we know is bad, and we work against it. We try to improve. So we don't just say, oh, because it's my tendency, I just live the way I am. No, but we try to be better. So if everyone wants to be sincere, there has always been a time, even recently, when you have either in error or whatever expressed a form of discrimination against someone which was unfair, mainly because of your preconceived idea about them. I used to think I was very well brought up in terms of not being discriminatory until I stayed in a particular country, and I found myself making a particular statement when I was discussing with my colleagues and my wife, always saying, these people are always doing this. And I have to ask myself one day, this is discrimination. This kind of statement is discrimination. So I had to be conscious to stop it. So as much as we try, there is a natural human tendency to discriminate, which means that we have to put in more conscious efforts to do better. So that's how I will answer your question. We will listen to Tunde as he tells us the role of discrimination in promoting tribalism.
So while the Mars was speaking, she spoke at length and very excellently, even um, on the effect of tribalism on communities. Um, I would only like to corroborate on some of the points that she mentioned, um, talking about the prejudice that we've over time had. You understand? While she was talking about prejudice, it made me remember some things about how people see other tribe, especially in Lagos. It is out of prejudice that people in Lagos, for instance, landlord house owners will believe that the criteria that they should use to give people house and to rent their houses, number one, is based on tribe, not even based on the capacity of payments that you can pay for the house you are renting. So if you are not Yoruba, it becomes very difficult for you to get a house in Lagos. That's how the misconception. These are the things that tribalism can and prejudice can can um, can bring. And I'm talking about the question, the effect of tribalism on communities. We cannot overemphasize the negative impact tribalism has on communities, on our nation. The effect will span from even from basic things like our social interaction to bigger things like nation building. First of all, even in the areas of employment, we see the effect of discrimination. We see the effect of tribalism. These days, in some part of the country, in Nigeria, for instance, if you are not, things like employment are not sometimes not given to people um, based on capacity. Sometimes it is based on who you know and your tribal affiliations. So that's that is a that's a very drawback to the development of that of any community or of any nation, and that is one of the reasons why we're able where we are in Nigeria at the moment. If the reasons why people are voting leaders uh, is because of tribal affiliations or religion inclinations, then not because of capacity, then our nation cannot move forward. In the last election, we will recall that the people we employ into power um, when we're on the ballot box, most of us, and that's what Tony was trying to say, that this thing called tribalism and prejudice is innate in man. Sometimes subconsciously or unconsciously, you just find yourself leaning towards being tribalistic. So it takes conscious efforts to try to divorce yourself from this scourge. So in the last election, we saw how tribalism played a major role, and it is still playing a major role, and it is drawing us back as a nation. It is not just about corruption. We keep talking about corruption. It is not just corruption that is drawing us back in Africa, in other parts of the world. Just as Mars also mentioned, especially in Rwanda, we saw how how tribalism was a major drawback to the development of that nation. So also in Nigeria too. So tribalism will always affect the kind of people we push out to public offices or to the offices that we are employing them for. Secondly, we can also relate the effects of tribalism to even the fact that it's, should I use the word disenfranchise people from enjoying basic facilities they are supposed to enjoy as a nation. What joins all of us together is the country, is our country, Nigeria. So if we are all Nigerians, then nobody, just like the popular Aisha Yusufu will say, that nobody is in Nigeria more than um, another Nigerian, right? Something like that. So if I am in Nigeria, and that's why, for instance, me as a person, while we're growing up, I remember my first jam, and the school I wanted to put in for, they said it's not my catchment area. I was like, I had to even go start reading what I check the dictionary catchment area. Why am I being limited to particular states? Why are these states being given quotas from this? Why are these institutions giving quotas from these states. So if I decide that I'm a Lagosian and I want to school in Bauchi, for instance, then there should be no, I shouldn't be limited to just to Lagos, to Ogun State as my catchment area. In fact, opening out all these things up that you can school anywhere, it helps to unify the country. It helps to, because from there people travel and intermarry, and the bonding and the unity is greater enhanced, while when things like this is not there. So I am not an advocate for all these what's it called, these catchment things that we do in school. When in the civil service we see things like federal character. We talk about federal character even in employment. Just see, uh, if, like I said, when you employ all these factors, when you use all these factors as a criteria, then you have you have you are drawing back your nation, because um, the people that are more competent, you will not pick them. You mostly consider their tribal and religious affiliations, and I don't understand why most nations in Africa we have Ministry of Culture. Why those things, that ministry is not even um, is not really, for me. I feel they are not really meeting their goals, and why that ministry is established, because the Ministry of Culture is to promote the culture of all Nigerian tribes and ensure that the greater good of Nigeria is also fed alongside while we are promoting this thing. So the media too is also supposed to come in that it's also supposed to help in fostering the agenda of unity, so that discrimination will become a thing of the past in Africa.
Hello, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes.
It's good to be in this discourse. I actually saw the flyer somewhere, and I saw my sister there, Mary, and I was very, very interested to join this live. Yes, I just want to make a few contribution there with regards tribalism and, of course, prejudice, because these are two different terminologies or two different words. So tribalism basically stems from the word tribe. For me, and for me, I don't see anything wrong in being tribalistic. It just means that you're championing your tribe, right? And if you're championing your tribe, the truth is you just have to, when you champion your tribe, when you respect your tribe, or respect the principles and culture, or what you cultivate in your tribe, you tend to respect other people's culture or the principles and values they cultivate in their culture, right? Prejudice now. Prejudice is another thing. It just simply means to prejudge. You are prejudging before the fact. And you prejudging, people prejudging before the fact, just simply stems from historical events. If you've done something to me bad, there's what we call flight or flight, right? If something happens to an animal, the animal reacts as a result of that historical event, right? So if you've done something historically to a particular person or a particular group of people, that will always play in their subconscious, because that is what has shaped their psychology. And I don't see anything bad in them reverting back to a bit of historical events to use to make a decision. Because for me, when I'm observing a particular phenomenon, I am basing on my historical events, because that's what's stored in my memory. It will come to pass. I will use that. I could make a wrong decision, But I try, everyone tries, just like you guys have said, or the anchor of the show has said. We try not to make those stupid decisions. But once in a while, you know, when you use those information, those historical events to make this decision, it could become false, hence your prejudice, because you're just assuming. You know, people assume, you can, you know, and then, but when you know that this is an assumption, it is very, very okay to fall back and say, oh, and own up to say, yes, you made a mistake. It was an assumption. That's why you need to always look for the facts before you make a decision. And I don't want us to limit this discussion to colonialism and slavery. Human beings have always been segmented in terms of tribes. So if you go to the ancient times, in the ancient Egyptian times, you have different worshippers because that's a particular group of people having their own culture. You know, just like in the Yoruba tradition or in different African tradition, you have different worshippers. You have the Ogun worshipper, you have the Shango and all that. And then, you know, there's a tendency that one of them might want to rise up to be superior than the other. But in the ancient time, there was no superiority in terms of that. But, you know, historically, we found out that once in a while, the Shango worshipper could assault the Ogun worshipper, and that's where the prejudice could come into play as a result of this historical event. It's okay to be tribal as long as you're putting checks and balances, and to be prejudiced in a way because you are using your past experience to interpret or to make decisions as to the future. If you don't rely on your past experience, you might really harm yourself.
Just to clarify a few things, your description of tribalism is very relevant, but just to say that tribalism has to do with how you treat people of other tribe. It's not really about your own tribe. So in other words, we would of course love to promote everything good about our tribes. That is what we talk about, cultural heritage and promoting your culture, promoting your food, promoting where you come from. And in fact, what we try to also tell people is to welcome diversity. If we're all the same, we would not enjoy life. That fun you see from different places is what makes it. And if you go to most developed countries, that's what they do. They try to preserve that the differences that they have. I'm in Wales, and you see this effort put into preserving the Welsh language and all that. So there is nothing wrong with what you said. It's just that that is not tribalism. Tribalism is actually your own, how you treat people from other tribe, not about your own tribe. I just needed to just say that we should promote whatever makes us who we are, and we should be happy to welcome others. Yes, and it reminds me that it's about prejudice. Why prejudice is not something to promote is because why we say it's a human nature, but it's a bad human nature. The reason is because you don't know this person, but you already have a strong opinion about what this person is capable of doing.
Can I step in there, please?
So
Yes,
sorry,
please,
Sister Mary, let me quickly say something. In the ancient African, even till now, in the African tradition, when you want to get married, you do what they call mommy moy. Anyone
Background
knows
check.
Yoruba here, you do mommy.
Just like background
That
check.
mommy moy, do you know that we can say that is being prejudiced because it's based on
Assessing the person.
assessing the person, and it's based on an
Background.
historical event that this person's gene, which is scientific. If the person's gene is like this, you are not allowed to marry someone like this because it is scientifically proven.
you're bringing another this area to this discussion, which is also very nice. It's unfortunate that we just have quite a short time,
Can I say
but
something? Sorry,
I don't
Uncle.
know.
Uncle, there's
Yeah.
something that we should not forget. The topic for discussion is we are looking at how it affects social division, how it festers social division. So You are looking at you are looking at the maybe the positive side of tribalism, or what you call tribalism and prejudice. But these same terminologies have in the past resulted to dividing us. And that is what we are talking about tonight, to see the disadvantage that it brings in Africa and nation building.
For me, I believe the division is based on lack of knowledge for so many people.
That's
When
Exposure.
the people are
we are
knowledgeable
going
about
to
their
get
history,
there.
when the
Ty,
people
we
are
are going to
knowledgeable
get
about their
there.
history, they will not prejudge. For me, I'm a Pan-Africanist, and the reason why I'm a Pan-Africanist is because when I examine all the cultures in Africa, there is only one thing that is common amongst all of us. It's that we are a leopard skinned people. So when you go to the Yoruba, you see them wear Amotekun. You go to the Zulu, you see them wear Amotekun. You go to Egypt, ancient Egypt, all the pharaohs, Amotekun.
Yeah.
So you are one people. Even before you bear Yoruba, before you bear Igbo, do you know that you've been called Ethiopia? Do you know that you've been called Nubia? So when the people learn about their history, then they will understand all these things, and you will see yourself as, human, or as, if you want to call yourself black before you see yourself as human, or African before you see yourself as human. Then you can do that.
Sorry to just chip in quickly. What you've just said there is very
Interesting.
key. So I'm just going to try and round up my points quickly in one. First of all, it's important to see ourselves as human, and this supersedes any tribe, any race, any. It's important to have that in mind. Number two, I agree that being tribalistic, sometimes it's there's a positive part to it. It's understanding your culture, how rich your culture is, but at the same time, not using it. This is where the prejudice come in. Not allowing prejudice to fester in to cause division in such a way. Let me explain it in a very layman's word. When you have CVs in front of you, you start sorting out the CV and you see anyone that has a day or you put them in one side. They are not getting this job. That is prejudice. Your prejudice has taken hold of you there. Now, how do we stop? Because that then you are stopping those people. Their destiny is on hold because of you, your preference for
Yeah.
anyone else apart from the Oyo and the So that is basically with this prejudice and tribalism together. It's a bad combination, and it goes into discrimination. Most of us remember xenophobia happening in
South
South
Africa.
Africa. Can I shock you? Do you know that a lot of the people that were affected were Zimbabweans? And
Wow.
if you look at the boundary of South Africa and Zimbabwe, a lot of them speak the same language. Some of them is the Shona. You have Shona in South Africa, you have Shona in some Shona people in Zimbabwe, you have some Shona people in Zambia, and and Malawi. So you were killing them only because of what? Because maybe their own dialect is slightly different, or because they say so. That if you think of it in that way, it makes me sick. Like, how will you look at your fellow brother, and just because you think they are getting jobs because they are working better jobs than you, which how do you even justify that? You can't even justify it. So I look at it from that perspective, and I think it's quite a big piece, for educational piece for us in Africa. Charity begins at home. In your small community, have you traveled around? Have you taken time to learn about, this lady, Asian, Chrissy Asian, she sang this song, every kilometer is another language. And that is true. How many languages do you know in your state? Have you taken time to know them? Have you taken time to understand their differences? I'll stop there. Thank you.
I will just quickly go through some points just to identify areas that are quite important. Education, traveling. The more you travel, the more you're educated, and the more you get to meet people of different characteristics from you, the less likely you are to display these forms of primitive thinking, just or categorizing everybody from one side to be the same. I have been able to be privileged to travel a lot, and I've experienced love from people from Arab, and even in my current location in Wales, I've experienced extreme love from people from the Welsh community. I would like to just quickly bring my own experience. When I was moving from my house, my former house where I was renting to my house where I am now staying, guess who were the people that assisted me in moving? By assistance, I'm talking of providing vans, coming in to help me carry my stools, my chairs, my fridge, my freezer, and the women joined together in cleaning the house. Every single person was a Caucasian. And when I'm saying persons, I'm not talking of 5 persons. There were nothing less than 10 to 12 persons who came to assist me without any pay. That is the kind of love we should be preaching. I can't have experienced this and tomorrow I'm going to sit down and say, I hate people from work. No. So I think traveling and education helps a lot. During the colonization of the country, especially by the Belgians, there was a favoritism for the less.
I'll go with the laws. And the laws, when I say the laws, we're not talking of the top tier law. As I said from earlier on, charity begins at home. Like, for instance, if you're in a WhatsApp group and certain people begin to talk about, different tribes in a very disrespectful way, you need to nip it in the bud. Call the person out. It doesn't matter whether it's your tribal man or someone that is your friend. You need to call it out. Likewise, it goes even in churches, in places of worship, in mosques, in shrines, wherever you go to. If someone starts speaking wrongly about another tribe in such a sick way, you should stop it. You go to parties and someone start talking that, oh, look at this Malu girl, or this Omo Yoruba, they are like this, they are like that. You need to stop them immediately right there. There should be laws in our group, in our WhatsApp forums. There should be stated guidance, terms of reference to say, this is what we do here. This is what we do not tolerate this. If you do this, you'll be deleted. Likewise, in places of worship, we know that in the churches and mosques in different places, we are not all Igbo, we are not all, in fact, you have different tribes there, different countries there. Why will you not start forming and speaking to a group of people that other people there don't understand the language? They will feel like you're slagging them, like you're talking about them. I'm not saying don't speak your language, but don't do it when one person there doesn't understand it and you're speaking it as a group and that person is there. Put yourself in their shoes. So the law starts from each and every one of us. We speak respectfully about, and then in countries, there should be a way of distributing resources evenly among tribes, respecting and acknowledging the minority, so that this wealth actually trickles down to them all. Thank you.
Having strong laws up there will also help. In addition to what you said, very relevant. I love the angle you came from. Also having strong laws up there. Because let's look at the Canadian lady in the video we watched now. There's already action being taken. So that will discourage or even make people to think next time, this is not acceptable character. Look at the riots that occurred in UK just recently. A lot of people were arrested. Why? Because it came from a racial angle. One of the guys who got the maximum sentence was announced just 2 days ago, just recently. He got a 9-year sentence. And what is the reason? Because of the racial angle in which it came in. So having strong laws will help to minimize these things. But when we are in a country where people can actually stand, like during the elections, it happened a lot. People can actually stand and threaten a whole tribe and nothing will happen and nobody is held to account, then it's going to fester and continue. So just to add to what you say.
So for me, I would say comedy, I'll look at comedy from the angle of art, right? So there's this saying by Fela that says music is the weapon. So I think our art is the weapon. All our artists, the African artists, all of them, they are the custodian of our culture. They are the people that can help in imparting the ideas, the custom of our people, or the customary ideations into the young ones coming up. So if someone is not aware of his history or is not knowledgeable of his past, you cannot think about that past. Neither can you speak about that past. It's because Fela was knowledgeable about his history. He was able to pass that in his music. So when you have a comedian coming onto stage, and he's not knowledgeable about himself or the knowledge of his people, then how can he speak? How can he make comedy that would impact the people? If you understand what I mean. So we need people to first thing first have a knowledge of self. And to have a knowledge of self is to have a memory. Full, because what makes you whole is your memory and ancestral memory. Tap into AI, not artificial intelligence, so ancestral intelligence. To be whole. When you are
I
old,
like
then you
that.
can now talk. You can now, everything will flow in your art that you do, in your comedy that you do, and you'll be able to impact people. That's what I'll say about
Do you know, sorry, do you know that some of these comedians, they are given a script? They are not actually, they don't write their script.
Yeah, most of them
Yes.
work for the government now. We know
Yes,
that one.
and there was one of there was this one I saw in America. She was given a script of a comedy to do this comedy, and down in the comedy she was made in that script it was going to be talking down about her fellow black woman, and she rejected the script. She said, "I will not do such thing."
So let me just add to that. So I used to laugh about certain kind of jokes until I started to have a deep reflection. There are actually some jokes that are not, they are funny if you don't think deep. But just think deep and you find that when we make certain jokes that just says the Yoruba man, this everybody laugh, the Hausa man, it's a joke, but it doesn't end there.
It's
So,
not
like
even
you said,
uplifting.
It's
It's not
yes,
uplifting. It doesn't
it's
uplift any
it gives
person.
some kind of ideology to the people watching, and
yeah.
that's what they
So
start running with.
So just the way you said music is the road to the heart. So also such thing we laugh, but it indirectly we are incorporating those thinking in our people. Oh, the Hausa man
Consciously.
is this kind of people. The Igbo man, he too like money. These are we people who have not been exposed to people of other tribes. We begin to think that this is actually how it is. So and that
Because idea is the substance of behavior. All those
yeah
things the person is saying is inducing an idea. And someone
yes
who is not rooted firmly, you will perpetuate it in your behavior.
First of all, we should all understand that um, even though Ty said we should not look at it from the colonial angle and all of that, but we saw that from history that this thing starts from our colonial masters, passed on to our parents, and it's been passed on to us. It's something that has been we have kind of grown with, and that is the black and the white, and that's everything. That is Africans were black, and the whites, the developed nations. Everything that is evil is black. Everything that is good, angels, even the media to paint angels, paint angels as being people in white and paint demons. Have they seen demons? The demons that are black. That's what media has fed many people with. You understand? So anything that is bad, it is black. But the fact is that we are all shades of brown, not even white and black. You are, I am a dark, there's what we call chocolate brown, right? I'm a dark version of um, brown. The Caucasian, they're a lighter version of brown. There's nobody that is white. There's nobody that is black. We are all dark. Well, so God created us in one color, but in different shades. There's nothing like white and black. So that ideology that has been passed on to us from the West, that they are white and we are black. So anything that is bad is black, and anything that is white is good, and they are white, has been further magnified by the activities of the media. So the media houses, whether social media, even on social media, and the TV houses, the radio, and Nollywood producers. You see what Nollywood producers, they like to use fair skin ladies. Fair skin ladies, when they are picking their actors, fair skin people. So you see our people now are not trying to change their colors. This is the power of the media. Understand? So all of these things are things that we should try to divorce ourselves from that. No, we are not blacks. We are not blacks, and there's nobody that is white. And by the time we start seeing that, we see that all of us, when we know that we are all shades of brown, that means we are all one ultimately. And when we see that, unity will be further enhanced. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tunde and Tai. You just fit into the team. You contributed a lot. Mary, we're happy to have you here. We are
Mars.
hopefully going to have you. Sorry, Mars. When you know somebody from way back, that name is what remains. Mars. I'm sorry about that. Happy to have you. We don't know what has happened to Innocent, but I think it's a network issue. This is how we do it on this channel. For now, we will just be giving 1 hour per week. Hopefully, with time, we can increase it. Please support the channel. There are various ways you can support. Like I've said earlier on, you can join us during our live sessions. You can share our live. You should please subscribe to our various channels. We are on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. We are starting with those 4 for now. And I think we are also on TikTok. So we have 4 channels and 4 different channels we are using. Please subscribe to them to be able to support us so we can grow this community where we will discuss topical, relevant topics, educate ourselves. Each time I'm here, I learn something new. I believe you will also learn something new. Thank you so much, and we hope to see you next week.